Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paperstac Podcast. My name is Burky. This is Rick Allen.
That's what they call me.
And we're back for another snackable,
Could be snackable. Could be Could be a heavy snack. Could be like, instead of just like, celery and ranch, we could be some like chicken wings with it or something.
Chicken wings. All right, that's one heck of a snack.
I like chicken wings.
Huh?
Protein.
No, I'm with you. I love chicken wings. They're some of my favorite. All right, so today's topic is going to be building a boots on the ground team. How do you go about it? Maybe some tactics Rick's used in the past to build a boots on the ground team. Maybe some secrets he knows about building a boots on the ground team, and then explaining what a boots on the ground team means.
God, that's a mouthful.
That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful. So yeah, having a boots on the ground team is important, and boots on the ground team is simply, if you're investing in an area, you want to develop a core team that you can call on and consistently work in that area. If you're kind of buying all over, you can leverage other people's boots on the team. There's asset management companies, and VMS, or I believe is one of them, that they've got relationships already formed. Now, the key to that, understanding that, is you're using their vendors and you're going through them to get there, so you're going to pay a markup. Right? If you're going to be investing in a specific area consistently, then it would behoove you to have your own boots on the ground team. You can vet your own vendors. But if you want to use somebody else, there's ways to do that. But the key to developing this team is knowing what you're looking for, knowing the roles that you need to fill, right? Like, before you can start, you're like, okay, I need to put down a list of all the critical positions or members of this team that I need. Real estate agents, property managers, contractors, people that can do little things for you, just depending on
property preservation.
And so really a great tool is a good real estate agent. Right? If you find a great agent in the area who's got some background in REO, they've got background in default, that's a great place to start. Susie Q or Johnny Joe, who's been, lists one or two retail houses a year and or finds a few houses and sells a few houses for people that are interested. They're okay, but really, if you can find somebody with that default background, the REO background, that's going to be key, because one, they're used to dealing with the kind of product that you're going to be giving them.
That's true.
Two, you're going to be able to leverage their team. If they were heavy in default, they've got a team of property preservation guys. They've got the local handyman who can go change out the locks. They've got the guy who can secure the doors, right? Mm-hmm. So you can leverage them. Yep. They likely would have a contractor, or at least have that idea. And if you're not going to go with the REO route and you can't find one, find somebody who's worked with real estate investors, because again, they're going to have access to a boots on the ground team, and they'll have extensive knowledge on default, beat up houses, ugly houses, on securing property. So that would be my plan B, would be like, okay, I want to find somebody who's used to working with investors.
That makes sense.
Another thing is, and it's kind of you got to be careful, if you find a real estate agent who's looking for who works with investors, you just have to understand that what's the value of your actual asset, because sometimes they'll try to get a real good deal for some of the investors that they work with on a regular basis, and you got to make sure that you're getting represented properly.
Say it again.
So let's give you a real live case scenario.
Okay.
I go out and I couldn't find anybody in the area who's does well with REO, or they've done a bunch of REO. I find somebody who represents real estate investors a lot.
Okay.
So it's not exact, but they're comfortable with it. They may have some contractors. They may have pieces of the puzzle in place that you can leverage them. If you're taking something and it becomes REO, well, they're looking to get that REO back and sell it to one of their investors.
Right.
Chances are they've done 5, 10, 15, who knows, 20 deals with that investor.
Right.
And if it's the first time they're working with you, they're supposed to represent you but they've got a relationship with somebody they're trying to sell a house to. You see what, like, it could get a little convoluted, and you could put them in a difficult situation where they're like, hey, they want to get the best deal for this investor because I know they're going to end up reselling the house for their investor. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So REO is first. That's who I would look for, somebody who's got REO. Second would be, okay, if I'm doing a real estate investor, friendly agent, I would just be wary of that and make sure that I know. I would have my own independent inspectors going through there. I'd have my own independent BPO done by somebody else. So that way you can trust but verify what they're telling you is actually accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but knowing what you need to fill, what roles that you're filling, that's the first step.
Yeah.
You got to know the roles you're filling. And a lot of times the quickest way to do it is finding the REO agent, because they've already got that book of business.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Built out. It kind of goes into finding, reliable partners, right? So, boots on the ground is going to be property managers, but next thing you do is you need to find vendors, right? So if you can set up a vendor account with Home Depot, that usually is a nationwide thing. If you can get a rehab guy, like a quality guy that's like a rehabber, that's a handyman that can do good work, that's key, man. If you can find somebody like that, because I've got one guy that'll travel all over. He'll go within like 5 counties in Central Florida, which is key, because if you have multiple things in the area, which is important, like I like to have, if I'm doing real estate investing, I got stuff in the Central Florida area,
right?
Because I don't manage rehabs far. I don't like doing that. It's too much of a pain. It's easier for me to develop this when I can go talk to somebody, meet them for once or twice, let them on a job and say, okay, here, I need you to do this job, this job, this job. Hey, when you get a break from this one, I need you to go over here and secure that. The door blew in this last hurricane or something like that.
Right.
So developing like the reliable partners, they kind of defining your roles is first, and then once you define what you need, then it's finding somebody who's reliable, somebody you can count on, somebody that's been vetted, they're trusted.
So do you not do rehabs in different states?
Not anymore.
No?
I mean, I've done plenty of them in other states, but those were when I took something back through REO. Because like when you get somebody, the vetting process is a pain in the ass, because no matter how good you vet them, you still don't know how they are till you work with them. You can get somebody, you can use Angie's List or one of those other things, and they've got these ratings, but at the end of the day, you don't really know who they are until you've worked with them. And you get a good sense of who people are when you sit there and you talk to them and shake their hand. It's a lot easier to gauge somebody,
Yeah.
If my guy shows up and his truck is limping into the job site, I'm like, I'm not saying it has to be a brand new truck, but if we got scratch and dent material all over the thing, it's like, hey man, you're not getting a lot of business, or else you'd have a little bit nicer work truck. How reliable is your work truck?
Yeah, that's very true.
So
the guy does my house has the Ford Lariat, whatever it's called,
a Lariat.
Yeah, so those are nice ones.
The next thing is once you've defined your roles, you've found your credible partners, you need to establish like, how are we communicating? And this is important. It sounds silly, but like, what's the communication strategy here?
Would it just be phone?
Could be, but there's going to be email involved. Are we texting? Like, what's the best for them to communicate? I like email on everything, or phone, because I like a paper trail. Right? If you're using something like NVMS, and you're just like, look, I don't feel like setting up all that stuff, I'm just going to use a company that's already done it, you communicate through their platform.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you communicate right through their platform, and then they disperse communication, all communication comes back in, and so there's these audit logs. Which is nice, but again, like I said, you expect to pay 20-25% markup on everything.
Right.
So if you can stomach it, sometimes the headache is worth it. You're like, it's worth the headache just to deal with this. Or sometimes you're like, no, I'd rather not. I'd pay the 20-25%. It's like paying somebody to do it. Mm-hmm. You're just going to pay more. Just figure that into your budget. So that's a thing. It's just understanding, like, look, what's communication like? Establishing, like, look, man, if I call you, you can't go dark. Don't not respond. Because most of the time, if you're doing something, you got to put money out up front, like on remodels or rehabs, you got to put money out. And it's like, there's not a worse feeling than somebody goes dark when you gave them a $3,000 deposit or something like that.
Right.
How are we going to do the invoicing? What's that look like? Are you sending me a link through email? Am I paying that? Mm-hmm. Just those things. So you want to establish your kind of communication parameters, and that's what I'm expecting out of you. The next thing is you got to use, again, digital tools. Use technology to your advantage, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many pieces of the puzzle that can be solved with technology. Mm-hmm. There's a company out there who, friends of the program, PayPixel, who they're a drone flying company, and right now they've taken their software, they've taken their technology, and they're implementing it into roofs, to where they can go fly a drone over a roof. It's 4K video, and then AI can look at it, and it's established like literally which shingle is defunct.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but there's all kind of tools out there that will help you. It'll help you manage people. It'll help you do the job, mm-hmm. right? And that's the next thing is, like, use technology. Like, what are you using for project management, right? Because when you start, like, this is project management.
Yeah.
Essentially, when you're managing assets in different areas, you got to have. We use Podio forever. There's programs out there. There's Notion. There's Podio, Asana. So not only are you able to communicate with, you can use that for project management to communicate with whoever you're working with, but you can also use it for your team, your internal team, so everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's key for managing the boots on the ground, is like, look, who's handling this, what's going on with this project, just really leveraging technology. The final thing is like look, incentives and trust. You got to build trust, and really getting people to perform at their highest. You got to offer them incentives. You got to be willing to pay. I'm not saying cut them in on the deal, but if they give you a deadline and say, look, how long is this going to take? It'll be, no, give me a date. It'll be done like that. Great. If you finish it by that date, here's your incentive. I'm going to give you a 10% bonus. Or if you go past that date, mm-hmm. like, what are you taking off?
Right.
Get people working, motivated, moving.
Yeah, that's smart.
So figure out different ways to incentivize your team,
That's smart.
And then pay, kind of on that, building trust, pay your bills early. Don't, if it says net 30 on it, pay them immediately. My buddy who's a general contractor, he doesn't bid out all of his jobs. He doesn't bid them out to a bunch of different people. Once he's got his established crew, his electrician, his plumber, he's like, here, this is a job, tell me what's going to cost. He's not bidding them out, but also, whenever they send an invoice, it's paid the next business day. Mm-hmm. Here you go, right? Mm-hmm. By doing that, what are they going to say? Man, this guy pays his bills right away. Mm-hmm. Right away. If you're paying your bills right away and you pick up the phone and they say, I need this job done, what do you think is going to happen? They could be working for 3 other people, and if 3 other people are net 15 or net 30, your job gets pushed to the top.
Yeah.
So pay your bills on time. Pay them early. Don't pay them on time, pay them early. My manager used to tell me when I worked in the bar industry, he's like, early is on time is late, and late's unacceptable.
Yeah, I forget where that saying comes from.
I don't know where it comes from, but Danny Davis was his name. Funny, I just talked to him Sunday. But it was fantastic. It's like, so build your trust, incentivize your people. So that's kind of it. Define the roles, know who you're looking for. Then once you define the roles, find the reliable partners, mm-hmm. figure out how this communication is going to work back and forth, and then use technology to your advantage, and then build trust and incentivize people.
So, quick question: If I was looking to find an REO agent in
REO, okay,
yeah, agent in, let's just say, I don't know, Dallas. Like, what am I doing? Going to Google looking for REO agent Dallas, or is there like some way of finding these people?
Yeah, I mean, I would start Google REO agents Dallas, bank agents Dallas. You know, get on the phone and talk to some people. Network, talk to other
investors in that area.
Other investors. Get on to BiggerPockets. Say, hey, does anybody do business in buy notes in Dallas area? I need some boots on the ground. Talk to people here. Talk to the people in the Facebook group, Paperstac's Facebook group. It's a giving community.
Yeah, it is.
People are like, yeah, here you go, use this.
Yeah.
And warm introductions.
Yeah.
I would ask for a warm introduction. If somebody ever asks for, hey, I need a referral for this, I always introduce them via email. And both of them, I say, John, this is Joe the builder. Joe's incredible, builds great houses or does whatever. Joe, this is John. He's an investor in the area. He's looking for some help here. I knew you guys be able to help each other out. I think you can do some business together. I'll let you two take it from here. Feel free to not CC me on any more emails.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
There's also last I know, there's a BAG network that might have a lot of those connections
yeah,
too.
BAG network has those connections. So yeah, building your BAG network's a great one because it's really industry specific to the note space.
It's very note space.
And Dickie Baldwin over there knows everybody, and his book of contacts is deep.
Yeah.
It's deep. So that's, BAG network's a great one. That's probably where I would, I might start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, good. That kind of tells people, first off, one thing that picked up on my mind was radius. Unless it's a super sweet deal.
It's not necessarily radius. It's just like the note. When I was talking about what I invest in, I'm talking about real estate. I'm investing in real estate locally. But the reality is, the great thing about notes is you can invest pretty much anywhere that you're, licensing. You got to figure all that out. But you can invest across the country. If you've got stuff, you got one in Bend, Oregon, and then you got one in Fresno, California, and you got another one just outside Las Vegas, and then you got one in Atlanta, you got one in Dayton, Ohio, you can do it. You're probably going to say, look, I'm just going to leverage maybe the BAG network, or I'm going to leverage NVMS.
Yeah.
If I've got 10 around the area of Atlanta and the surrounding areas, or I've got 5 there, I got 3 or 4 in Dayton, I got 1 in Cleveland or 2 in Cleveland, but there's 2 more just outside of Cleveland. You can start okay, I'm going to find the areas that I like, right? Mm-hmm. Raleigh, North Carolina. Hey, I do a lot in North Carolina, and I focus in this area. Mm-hmm. And it helps when you're identifying deals. You're like, if it's a performing loan, you're like, I can kind of buy that one wherever. But if it's a non-performing loan, you don't want to have people it's tough to manage.
Just spread yourself too
thin. Well, you have to, every time you open up a new area, you got to go through the process. And if you're really good at developing that process and that is a learned trait. It is something that's skilled. Mm-hmm. Developing, you hear people say, developing a new area. They're developing their boots on their ground. They're developing their team. Mm-hmm. And then, you've got to manage it. So what do I have in the Atlanta area? Well, you better have a Rolodex of a couple people. You better have roster spots, a couple roster spots. Mm-hmm. If you get 3 going at once and you got one guy that can do it all, it's tough. If you have a deep roster, those are the guys who are real successful.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So.
Okay, well, I guess that's it for this episode of the Paperstac Podcast. Of course, if you have your own questions that you would like Rick to answer, you know what to do, leave them in the comments. And if you haven't yet checked out the Academy and want a deep dive into some education over there's a lot of good information all coming from this guy that knows exactly.
That's not all from me.
Well, I mean, he learned somewhere, but he's in all the videos. So, all right, man, that's it. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.